Hello, this is a video about converting a corporate model into an acquisition model. Really exciting. And performing some relatively advanced valuation techniques, not the old growth rate, EV to EBITDA, terminal value, but maybe some interpolations. Now, the reason I'm making this model is because I had a wonderful class in India, and some of the students said, "Oh my God, you didn't finish some of this." Of course, I didn't. And they said, and kind of complained. So, this is my uh, finishing kind of a model, and I thought it would be a good video to make because I don't have any recent videos, at least, on how to take a financial model. And here's our financial model. Now, this financial model is a month by month model. It's got some switches for historically, absolutely crucial magic historic switch. You can call it a flag if you want. What the hell? And then we've got some switch for valuation period and a terminal period. Okay. Now, we're going to take this financial model that goes and extends to month by month by month. Don't think it's a real company, it's a fake company. And we have some historic balance sheets that end, and then we move to a future period. The reason I made it a month by month, no, quarter by quarter, excuse me, quarter by quarter model. And the reason I did that is so we could start our acquisition and start our valuation and end our valuation at different dates. So we have the classic things that I think are so important, which is to get the balance sheet, not put a historic balance sheet with the future, lay out the assumptions in a very simple way. I used random numbers to get my kind of model built, and then get the pre-cash flow, then get the after-tax flow, blah, 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 where you compute depreciation, and the pre-cash flow, pre-tax cash flow, excuse me. I'm sorry if I'm having trouble getting words out. I'm kind of in a little prison here. I'm in Hackney in London, and there are no windows in this room, so maybe I'm going crazy. I, whatever. That's how I keep my costs down when I have this teaching. And then I have some projected cash flow, and now here's kind of a problem that we have to look at the ROIC and understand in this one what happened to the return on invested capital. I'm obsessed wrongly. ROC can be a distorted figure, but we can't really find anything better. Don't believe this McKinsey bullshit. ROC isn't the only answer, but it's the kind of a good check on the model. Then we put our debt and cash together in the model. Now, of course, you're going to get this model on the in the website under. I suppose I should show you where you'll get this model. Just a minute. Let me finish this. So then we put our financial statements, our cash flow, our balance sheet, and then we have a nice little valuation, and we go through alternative methods of valuation, which none of them really work. The traditional ones, I'll explain what I think is the kind of the best way perhaps to do this, with some adjustments to normalizing the cash flow and to computing terminal value in all sorts of different ways. Then we are going to have a summary of all this valuation. Now, please, I'm a little embarrassed to show you this, but I'm going to kind of fix this and figure out what's going on with this. I'm just switching on the video while I'm doing this, and we want to put some of our spinner boxes in, look at the effects of the WACC, look at alternative terminal values, alternative parameters for the different valuations. And right here, the very first thing, we better show the ROIC and then some assumptions that are driving the ROIC. So that's going to be task really number 1, or maybe 1A. And then we're going to take this model and convert it from a corporate model to an acquisition model. We have to make some assumptions about how we're going to pay for the company, how we're going to get out from the company, what the holding period is, what synergies bullshit we're going to get, and then we'll make we'll kind of make a little see, I'm going through it, kind of fixing it, a little sources and uses of funds, and finally a little pro forma balance sheet. And then we'll make our acquisition model that I began, but I didn't finish. So I really want to finish this acquisition model, and I'm going to do this in the video in the context of finishing the acquisition model. Now, I think, again, if you want to do this, I would suggest you start practically from scratch, delete all of these things, and I'm going to make an exercise file sometime where I put some yellow kind of little things in where I delete the formulas, and you can try some of this stuff yourself, but it's got some kind of fundamentals. Then I made a sensitivity page, and I purposely think this sensitivity page kind of should be a mess. You can put whatever you want in the sensitivity page. Let's put our generic macros into this, and suppose, oh, this must have come from a different sheet. These are the inputs. So we have a base case where I put some of these parameters in, and now if I better and then finally, I'm going to add a scenario output and show you how to kind of do scenarios in a little bit of a different way. All right, perhaps let's make this a purple color. How's this? Let's go to the and I made a drop down box. If you don't know how to make a drop down box, please just go to the section in the website. If you go to the VBA, the Excel utilities in the website, there's a little section on this. Okay, and then we can put our different cases in here and see what happened to if we put the base case, what happened to the valuation, and what happened to all our financial models. Now, this isn't very good yet because we need to make a presentation of it. Okay, so we'll put the same kind of little scenarios here. Now, when I made the scenarios, I'm going to go a little bit more slowly. I made a different growth scenario. This is, I hope you know this. If you don't, that's fine. Shift Control 7 a little bit to make a little circle around it. But this is just the index function. The index function should be as much as plus or minus. And in this modeling, you need lookup, no V or H. V lookup or H lookup are criminal behaviors. Criminal behaviors. Index, lookup, no V, no H, and sum if, average if, whatever. Those are the 3 functions you need, the only functions you need. And you need to get good at these. Stop using V and H lookup. Don't even use match and index, hardly ever. Use index for the scenarios, use lookup all the time, and use average if sometimes. Really, please. So I'm sorry, it's very early in the morning. Maybe had too much beer last night or something. I didn't really have that much, but whatever. I'm sorry to be mean about this, okay? Not really. Now, let's use the index function again. So this is, I'm sorry, I'm going to get into the mechanics of acquisition a little bit. I'm not really that sorry about this, by the way. And I'm going to first, if you want to skip over this, I'm going to show you. Let's figure out what's going on in the model. Now, nobody uses my beautiful generic macros, and I'm so sad about that, except Hetty. She uses them. She makes me fix them sometimes. And right now, instead of making the links from a red color, I'm going to make them come from this flex sheet. I need to rename this. This needs to tab color sheet. Why I haven't renamed that yet is beyond me. Okay, and then we just put our color sheet in, and yes, I didn't have a color on the top, and don't worry, it goes pretty fast. Okay, whatever, I didn't cheat or anything, and we have our little things, and now we can see that the sales growth did indeed come from this, well, it's not exactly purple sheet, and you can see I haven't linked up these variables yet. And let's see if I, just a minute. Well, get some words out, you idiot. The variable expenses here, these ones, I'm gonna have to link up some more of these variables. Let's do the easy one then. So let's say our accounts receivable or debtors, if you want to call it that, in the worst case are a little bit higher, and in the last case are a little bit lower, and then we'll have a custom case that we'll use for our scenarios in a minute that just repeats the base case at first. And our inventories are a little bit higher, and so we have a little more stocks and a little less stocks in the other cases. So what we have to do is, after you set up a very quick little scenario sensitivity, and you can look at much longer videos. I've made way too many videos on that one. So that now we can go down to our stocks as a percentage of cost of goods sold, and I'm starting to see why I have some problems. Stocks as a percentage of goods sold here is completely different. So I've obviously got some errors. Well, I'll leave that in there because this is what I'm going to do now. So on each of these, I use the average if, see that up there, the lookup to get the historic number, and then I have a wacko number here. So, well, let's fix that anyway. Okay, that just, so I had about 83%. I forgot what it is. My mind is going, obviously. And let's put a little bit higher number here. And then let's put a little lower number. We should look at the history and study this like crazy, you know. Okay, and then, so it's good to make errors sometimes because you get to see kind of how it works. So you can see this is, and I suppose there should be a little title here, but this is the average over the historic period, and this is the latest period. So latest period, I say look up, and you can use the same one, look up on this date compared to that to the series of dates, and find the number that's just in this last historic period. I have so much about the historic switch, and I've talked about this before. Now, the next thing I really think we should do is go to the valuation summary, and I want to put a couple of things. Now, whenever you do this, this is going to be some graph and data, and we're going to just go crazy with the index function, and I'm going to put a row number, and I'm going to put just like a number 50 for the row. God knows what that is. Okay, and then hopefully what I did on purpose is in the financial model, every kind of key graph element was in column D. Okay, and then I didn't put enough arguments, idiot. Okay, and then I put a comma, and I go up to the row number. How easy is that? Now, I happen to pick one that's not a good row, and then so this row is capital expenditures. Now I have another little technique to skip over the blanks with the spinner box. I haven't figured out how to do it with the drop down box yet. Okay, so then we can take our year is this easy or not? I'm just doing this because I don't know how you could make a model without using the index on a whole thing. Now, if this, do not ever commit a crime by doing this. What we should do is make them all the same length. Now, I hope I didn't screw up my valuation summary. Okay, so I don't know how far we went out. Again, I should make them all the same size. Okay, yeah, here's the link. So I went quarter by quarter forever. Whether you really get this data or not is another question, but the big deal is to be able to make a flexible model, follow your religious and your blah, blah, blah shit, and press Shift Control R and say, this is going to be flexible. And so we put our data in. This is just with the index function. So, of course, if I change this to 56, I can say, of course, on this is sales growth. If I change this to 70, it's got some total expenses, and we can graph any of them. And then what we can do is put the historic switch here. Okay, and then we just put an equal sign. And I'm going to, what I'm going to start trying to do is putting this file and actually putting a link to the video, Shift Control R. And then the next thing you can do is put the history for this. And the history is just a if, not a multiplication. If this is true, then we'll take the number. And then we'll put the forecast, projection, whatever. I should put what my idiotic sister does. She goes to a fortune teller and wastes money. I could put fortune teller. I'll call it projection. Okay, and then we'll put it if. We'll just use it's really complicated. We put not true. Can you guess that not true might equal false? Don't worry about that. And then I seem to have a different color code in this one, so we have all of our data. Now, the next thing we do is we don't put any year or date here. We just put the date up here. Okay, Shift Control R. And then we have our little F11 on our graphing rules, and we press alternate F1. And it looks like my expense assumption really sucked. We have some real error in the expense projection. And now we can start to figure out what's going on. And I'm surely going to have to switch this video off. Okay. And try to understand what's going on. Now, the next thing I think we should really do, sorry about wasting your time with a little bit of getting this a little bit 6 or something, Let's get this up here. And, oh, shit. Okay, come on. And then for our chart title, we'll put an equal sign and go down. And put our little thing here. Okay, so how long did that take? I hope it didn't take more than about 5 minutes to do. Okay, but I cannot. I used to. It was so horrible. I used to make thousands of graphs in different sheets. What a goddamn waste. Okay, and once we can do another one, I can put ROIC row, and we just put equal row, and then we'll be able to check really what is happening to the ROIC. So let's go down now. The ROIC is computed. This is crucial. After you do revenues, expenses, before you do any financing, don't muck anything up with financing. You can compute the ROIC from after you've got the depreciation, after you've got the working capital changes, you've got all the operating assets and compute invested capital, and you can put the ROIC. Now, this is all fake, okay? And then we do the same thing. We put equal index, whoops, down here, equal index. And then just in case you might, of course, insert a column, I mean a row, row. And then you press a F4 on this, okay, just like we did before. And then I'm even going to press Shift Control R. I have to press it twice, or 3 times. Don't get worried about that. Why is it the third time? Okay, and then we'll take this away and we'll put our dates up here. Okay, and then we've got the whole ROIC presented, and then what we can do, there's clearly something dramatically wrong here. I'm going to put this graph right next to the other one. And hopefully, oh shit. What happened? Control Z, Control X. What happened? Why didn't it go? Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to pause the video and clean this up. I'm back. I put a history and a forecast with the ROIC and whatever. One of these idiots who try to work with me said, "Oh, get rid of the fucking grid lines." Okay, I'll get rid of them. And then, now on the row number, why don't we go to here, go to the developer tab. This is so boring. I'm so sick of it. Can't stand it, put the stupid little spinner box in and find what the kind of starting row is. I have no idea what the starting row should be. Maybe it's 100, and maybe the ending row is 400 or 500, and then we of course go to another stupid sheet, back to this sheet. God, am I sick of saying this. And then what we want to do is, here we have some zeros, and we name this one something like spinner. Okay, and then we also put a sum, and we can make a sum of everything. Right now it's got, it seems to have a number in it. It's got working capital, okay? But if we increase this, it's changing. There's a zero, and I'm going to name this output. Okay, I hope I don't have another name output somewhere. Maybe I do. And then what you do, and excuse me for, I gotta shoot. Don't look at what I do, who cares what my stupid life is. If you go over to here and you go to databases and graphs, well, this goes through using the index, but then I said, let's also take this one that has this spinner box and put, and I think what you can do is just copy this. Okay. Oh, come on. You just copy this and you go to your Excel sheet, and then you have to get used to one thing. It's alternate F8. And then I've got something here. And I've got some depreciation expense to CapEx, which is much more of an important kind of function. I'm going to delete this and re-put it here. And I have to have my public, and I do have to have option base 1. You wouldn't have to do this. And then we have a little spinner box, and we need to have a name spinner, and it's named spinner change 1 and all that. So what you do here is, this was named spinner, and this was named output, and I'm not sure it's going to work. It might not. And then you go to this one and assign the macro. Okay. Now if you go up, notice it's not going through any zeros. Okay. I'm pretty proud of this little damn thing. Okay. Copy that and put it up here. Now what we can do, some of these have bad titles, and of course maybe I'll put a drop down box as well. Okay, we can look at what's our depreciation rate, and maybe we can see the expenses. Something's going crazy. Okay, we can kind of, the pre-tax cash flow is going down, and this is the change in provisions compared to our history, the change in working capital compared to our history. Maybe some of these are okay. Our EBITDA is going down. We've got to figure out what's going on. And I needed to start earlier than just that. I didn't want to do it the macro. I needed to perhaps start earlier than line 100. I got to see. Let's do it right. What the hell? For once. So let's, here, I kind of started all the assumptions here on line 54, and let's start reviewing the assumptions. Now I'm going to stop the video, but I am glad I kind of left it on here so you can see that's the important thing. And then this obviously, oh no, well, hopefully that didn't matter. Okay. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. Oh, shit. I'm going to put the wrong number here so we get it. Okay, so let's go up. That's kind of backwards, isn't it? You have to go down to go whatever. Okay. There's our history and our forecast. Good. Okay. I'm not so upset. Now I'm going to stop the video and try to figure out what's going on. I did that on purpose, and this is our valuation summary. And now we're going to go backwards. I might even have to make a second video, and we're going to talk about these valuations. And once we get this right, we're going to go into the acquisition and figure out what mistakes I made there. And we're going to structure an acquisition model. All right, this is going to be a long video, and I couldn't give a shit about that. Okay, as if you really care about this. But I went and changed some of my assumptions because they were wrong, and we used, somebody wants to call this a cockpit page. What a bunch of shit. But if I'm going to press Control C, I'm going to go crazy with this. Excuse me for that. Now we have some more of our assumptions, and I had some ridiculous errors in here before. Okay, and then we now can kind of go up and go down, and here's for me, the crucial thing is we can look at all of our expenses, and we did this in seconds, really. Okay, and when we look at all of our expenses, okay, we can then also keep the ROIC, and then if I would put the bull case in, we would have to really do a careful and say, this is a lot of crap. There's no way you're going to do this. In the bear case, you might say, this is maybe reasonable, actually. It might be a little too conservative. And then we show all of our valuation techniques, this value driver formula, which is crap, this immediate value driver, and this interpolated one that I think would be better than these two. And I'm probably going to have to relegate that to a second video because I think it's kind of interesting. All problems with EV to EBITDA, and then we can kind of see, well, what's our implied EBITDA, EV to EBITDA in these and all that. Okay, and then when you review the assumptions, the other way to do that is through this sum if and all this. You can see here's the kind of the history. Remember I said this is the average over the whole historic period, and you make a little true false for your evaluation period and can make it the last 5 years, the last 10 years, or whatever. I made it through 2014, blah 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 blah, and you press Control-Alt-C again, and we'll show that these numbers, of course, come from that sensitivity. Now this whole coloring thing is not, it's really so simple, but the finding the different sheets to color, that's something special. This is the special part of it, really. Okay. And you can go and buy these other programs and have them muck up your Excel and all that. I don't like to do that, but that's the key. Okay. So now we've got this. I probably promised to do a little valuation, but really I want to get our acquisition model right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we kind of start, this is a standalone model, and then we say, okay, let's buy this company. Okay, now, right now, you see the value to book is really high, and that's because the ROIC is here around 20%, and that's so much higher than the cost of capital. Our basic rules this is kind of interesting. The EV to EBITDA give you a lot of crap, but when the cost of capital is close to this, now I go crazy now. I've just discovered something that I should have known about 50 years ago, and that is very small differences in IRR over forever cause really, really big differences in the amount of money you get. And that's why these small changes in WACC have a dramatic thing. Now, we had a very high growth rate, so, if we put different terminal growth, we'll see that. And the EV to EBITDA can be, of course, very distorted. I better put a little bit lower one here. Okay, so that's what we're doing in our kind of valuations. I'll go back through that. Okay, another video. And then we're going to decide, let's go and buy this company. And I'm going to say, let's buy this company at a certain transaction date. And I just input that. Oh, no, we better do the coloring, and you better not go down and waste your goddamn time coloring all the time. It drives me completely crazy. Okay, and you can see where the kind of numbers came from. Maybe you don't like that. Okay, that's such an important thing. You don't like that, so we won't reverse the background thing. So we'll kind of show it in a different format. Generic macros. Go and download for free, and don't buy this other crap and pay this subscription fees for this other crap when I give it to you for free. Everything, if we're going to get this stuff from the financial model, everything is going to be the lookup. We just look up and use the whole lines. I've told you that so many times. Don't waste your goddamn time with the little F4s. Okay, and so we say, here's the quarter. I just multiplied it by 4 simplistically. I don't want to do a stupid sum over the last 4 quarters and annualize it or anything. Okay, I was just lazy. Okay, so that's our entry multiple. That's how we're paying for the company. And then we're going to put some synergies in, and then we're going to see how much we pay in equity, not in debt. Now, if you take, shift. Okay. Not so bad. Not so bad. It could undo. The shift control R could undo in that case. That's good news. I meant to press shift control E for the underlying. Okay, so that's our equity consideration. If we're paying this much for the total company and we have some debt, well, we'll take the debt out, we'll add the cash, or take the cash out of the company, and that's how much we'll pay for the equity. So those are kind of starting assumptions. And later we'll put some financing assumptions and some accounting assumptions and make a sources and uses. But right now, we don't even have to do that. Let's go and then make our acquisition model. And when you make the acquisition model, it might sound really complicated, but it's so damn easy you don't know. So don't pay these investment banks for all this crap. You put an equal sign and you start with the acquisition period. Maybe I'll even make another thing where I have so many colors it's like a rainbow or something. I don't know what to do. If I want a darker color, how about this is a very big decision. Let's try this one, and then we can go over here and see what, again, to have it explain to you what's going on. This is the hardest part in that whole generic macro, and of course it's open source software, so you can look at it and find it. Now you can see that came from the purple sheet. So if we change this transaction date to make it the next quarter, which would be, I suppose, one, is that one? If it was 1 April, then we all started at a different point. It grabs the EBITDA from a different point. And somebody in my class a long time ago for this goddamn Amsterdam thing who doesn't use me anymore, the bastards, they see, I have problems in my life, so many problems. He said, I want to make it flexible so you can put your acquisition in different time periods. That's the whole reason I made this whole thing quarterly. And then you just start going crazy with the lookup. And it's so easy. You lock the years and you lock the criteria, but you don't lock the stuff in the financial model. The 95 here does not get locked. So you can just copy a whole bunch of stuff down, and that's what I did, and then I added stuff. So this all just is transferred variables. I put even a little title. That's all you do, and then eventually you're going to. I'm going to also put a little. I put a little holding period here. Okay, so if we change this to 6 for the holding period, then we still transfer all the variables, but when I transferred the variables, I multiplied them by this little holding switch, which is going to be a crucial idea because you can do a whole sensitivity analysis. How hard was that? You need a lookup and a little thing. You need to know, stop with your fancy Excel and forcing things. Please stop with all that. And then let's compute our IRR. And the IRR we have is, we first put the entry multiple, and I have to admit, I am a little upset right now. This is, just a minute, I'm testing something out. Shift, Control, Alt, C. Oh, no, come on, don't do this. I'm worried that it wasn't purple, and I'm leaving the video on for this. I guess, yeah. Or it's a light purple. I guess if I put a minus there, I gotta go fix my generic macros, which I fix all the time. So you gotta download the latest version. If you downloaded an earlier version, you better check. It changes all the time. There's my, and now I put my terminal value. So we go put another terminal switch here, and we multiply the EBITDA upstairs by this terminal value, and then we get our IRR. And that's almost like doing the ROIC before you start mucking up everything. And then I said, okay, well, let's put some synergies in. He's firing people and being all mean to the world and whatever. That's what you're going to do. So I said, okay, well, we're going to put some negative synergies right up first. And then, this is this thing. I just threw it in. Just threw some scenarios in. Don't be all beautiful with your stupid artistic stuff. Just here, I just said, okay, I'm going to take some synergies and then I'm going to make some 3 scenarios because we don't have any idea what the synergies are. Don't fool yourself. And maybe I should put base case synergies, and maybe I should put high case synergies, and I'll put low case synergies so we can, differentiate this from that. Okay, maybe a little bit lower. You just throw all this in a separate sheet. Okay, and then let's go to our acquisition assumption. So I put some dates here. I said this was our starting date, and then I said in the first year, this was the first quarter of the acquisition, and then 1 year later and 1 year later, that's the E dates, okay? And then it just continues because I'm going to look at, because I'm going to use the lookup. And that lookup is attached to the generic macros because you should use it so often. VLOOKUP is not. And then you can multiply that. I said, let's take that as a percentage of what? EBITDA. If I'm a little more transparent, I did this fast, so I should put EBITDA here, which seemed to be row number 25. Is that okay? Okay, I took it from that one. I suppose I could have taken it from anyone. Shift Control 1 perhaps, and then Shift Control R. And that the coloring was wrong, but don't worry about that. So I really can now, the pre-tax synergies perhaps should have been, it's a little more transparent, isn't it? And we can see, well, we have some negative synergies and then positive synergies. And then what we really should do is compute the after-tax synergies. I did 1 minus the tax rate. I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm going to press Control-Alt-C. I'm going nuts with this stupid generic macros thing. But I want to not color that EBITDA. Okay. And then, so then we put all our synergies in, and I shouldn't have computed this. Don't worry. So we have our after-tax synergies that we're getting after the tax rate. And then we get our adjusted EBITDA. Okay, and then we get our adjusted exit value because we'll have more EBITDA, and we better multiply the higher EBITDA by the terminal growth year and all that. I can say all that. And then we take our pre-financing cash flow and we add in I think what we should do, just a minute, yes. Let's take our pre-financing cash flow, subtract the EBITDA, and add in the adjusted EBITDA. This is still, excuse me, this is after tax. It's the after tax synergies. So excuse me. We'll just take this and add in our after-tax synergies, you idiot. Okay, and then from that, we better subtract what we had in the original terminal value and add our adjusted exit value. I called it terminal value. I should have called it exit value. Okay, and then I've got a problem. Shit. Okay, I'm going to stop the video and fix this problem. Okay, I made a mistake. I just forgot that it's a quarterly model, and I didn't put multiplied by 4 in that adjusted exit value. Okay, now, so this is our IRR. Now, when you do the IRR, since it's quarterly, I use the XIR to get the annual IRR. I must have explained that somewhere else in a video. I should have an IRR page. I really need an IRR page. Okay. Reconciling IRR and ROIC and all that stuff. I've done that. I know I've done that. Okay. And then if you put the high case synergies in and the low case synergies in, you can kind of do that. So that's all pre-financing cash flow. Now, here is the next era of May. Now, I don't know, we haven't made a financial model. Oh no, we've just done a simple analysis, but this is a good check of what's going on. Don't get too stupid with a big financial model. Understand what's going on before you get to the rest of it. And then now we're going to put some financing in. So we go to our acquisition model and we say, okay, first of all, let's retire all the existing debt. And I must have put a little thing. Oh, I put a transaction multiple, which I'm not going to bother with right now. Okay. And then I said, well, let's just put some senior debt into this. Now, I've got another model where we go to A, B, and C, amortizing debt, bullet debt, and all this. But on this one, I'm just going to keep it a little bit simple. And I put some advisory fees, which are really kind of in the wrong place. This would be more perhaps up here in the transaction. These are the fees you pay to the, oops, why did that happen? Oh shit, I am so shitty with Excel. Oh, that's because I had a little plus sign, that grouping stuff there. Okay, so I'm going to put our advisory here, fees here. They're not really related to debt. Okay, and I'm going to put some debt fees. Now, the debt fees cause a stupid circular reference sometimes. Maybe not this time because we put a fixed amount of debt in here. Now, if this is India, this is not supposed to be interest rates you pay in Germany. Okay, and maybe I put the interest rate a little bit too high, but particularly if we do this on an after-tax basis, this is the after-tax IRR because when I added this cash flow, I started with after-tax cash flow. Can you see that? So even though this interest rate is pretty high, the tax rate is about 34% in India. And let's put a 1.5% fee in. The bank needs its fee too, which is just another interest rate. So what should happen is if you use this interest rate, then the IRR on the equity, which is really what you're looking at, and I should perhaps put this, I can put this project IRR. That's what you would use in project finance. And that's or you could call it ungeared IRR, unleveraged. Make a fancy name so you can show how smart you are and all that stuff, And then we take our EBITDA. Okay, and this is how we're going to start kind of a financial model. And then we're going to incorporate this debt. Now, how about instead of putting this, since we retired, we're going to unleverage the company. If we do that, ungear the company, we're paying 338 in enterprise value. Why don't we put 250,000 in debt? Okay, and I'm not going to put all the accounting stuff in there because frankly it doesn't really matter, but it makes you look fancy and all that, so you want to do it. But okay, and then what we start with is how much consideration we pay, and then I put this is really the advisory fees, which I made 2%. Oh God, is this criminal? Whatever. And then I'll put banking fees. And this time I kind of cheated because, we put a fixed amount of debt in. So we actually, I said there was a circular reference is not there on this one. So let's just let's do it perhaps here. Will it be? Maybe it will be a circular reference. Just a minute. No, because this is a fixed number. If this was a percentage of this number, it would be circular. And then our equity that we actually invest is the remainder. So we have to pay to buy the company. We pay to retire the debt. We're leaving the cash in the company. We're kind of not doing anything with the cash right now. We're paying some advisory fees. We're paying some banking fees. This is the total amount we pay. This is the total amount we get from debt, the total amount we get from equity, and that's the sources and uses. And it's a necessary step when you're going to make an acquisition model. And then once you make an acquisition model, you do the same thing. This is all part of our transferred variables. We got all this, and I seem to not be able to spell working capital changes, because my native language is not English. And then we put in all the kind of cash flow items we need. And then here is the key. Before, this is like our pre-tax cash flow section in our financial model. Okay, we have a pre-tax cash flow section. And then we show you where the numbers came from, of course. This is the interest rate on a quarterly basis. I divided it by 4. Criminal in some people's eyes, not in mine. And then we get the interest. But the big thing we don't know is how fast we can repay the debt. And now this looks really bad because we don't have enough money to repay the debt. Now, I probably made a mistake. But the big thing here is you need a little bit of a cash flow waterfall. Now, I also need a profit and loss statement for the taxes. And I really need to put up here somewhat less taxes. And I'm sorry if this is really difficult to follow because I think it is. So what? I'm making this because I'm trying to finish a course anyway. So give me a break, okay? And it's free anyway. So if you start giving me these asinine comments, go to hell. Really. I know it's not always easy to follow, okay? Some of this is a little bit complicated. Okay. Now so here is the big deal though. When you have a model, you need to start with the basic cash flows. And then you do not put a profit and loss statement and a cash flow statement on a balance sheet first. You start with the debt balance. And there's always a connection. This thing connects down into the financial model. Okay. Now, in this case, I'm kind of worried because we didn't have enough cash flow to pay off the debt. Now, I probably made some mistakes here. Not only probably, almost certainly. And then what we do is we can finally pay off the debt in the last year. And when we pay off the debt, this is going to be the only little trick. There's going to be a little minimum function. It's a max min that I go over so often. And then we finally get the cash flow to the equity. And when we're finished with that, we can put the IRR equity IRR. And that's, if I get that right, I'm going to stop this video. It's X IRR, and we tab, and we go across to this, and then we go up and we click on the dates, okay? And actually, this is much more reasonable. I think my problem before was just with the terminal value. So our equity IRR is 19. Now I'm going to halt the video and put in a profit and loss statement here. Okay, and I might even put in a pro forma balance sheet. Oh, how horrible and boring is that? I hope you see it's not really necessary for the financial analysis, but the accountants love it, so whatever. Okay, and where was I? Oh, shit. I didn't put the taxes in. Oh, here was, if I put different holding periods in here now. Okay, let's do this. You know, you might object to this. Most people probably would object to these things, but you can put reset buttons in here in case you're worried about some boss going and just mucking around with your buttons and you can't remember what everything is. So let's start with maybe a 3-year. I'm not sure I went out to 10 years, but let's say I'm not sure I put enough columns in for 10 years. I'll try. Okay, and we'll put this, and here's the big deal then. And then later we're going to do a little sensitivity, you know, with the different holding periods. Perhaps I'll put it right up here somewhere so we can, you know, this is our holding period. So, oh no. Okay. What happened? Oh, shit. Okay, I'm going to switch off the video. There. Oh, there's an error. Okay, obviously. Or there's something wrong with the model, but time to switch off. Okay, so I'm making a profit and loss statement. I just basically took all of the stuff from the transferred variables, and then I'm going to add the synergies. Okay, we better not forget to add that line, which I just did forget to. And do you remember when I put the synergies in here? I'm going to add the pre-tax synergies and get my EBITDA, which is this minus the cost of goods sold minus our employee expenses minus variable plus the synergies. Okay. And shift control R, obviously, and we put our depreciation. Now, I did not adjust depreciation for write-ups because I assumed this acquisition is a tax-free exchange of shares. If you would have a cash acquisition, you'd have to make a whole acquisition of the assets, rather. You'd have to taxable. You'd have to make a whole depreciation adjustment, but don't get intimidated by that. In some places it might allow you to depreciate goodwill and all this, and there might be some adjustments. So this is not intended to right now have everything, and then we put the interest from our debt balance. Still not quite correct because this isn't correct, but don't worry. And then we have I put the bear case here, and if I have the base case, a little bit of loss, bull case, no loss. But if we have a bear case, then we better put an NOL, which is one of the simplest things to ever do if you don't have an expiration that occurs likely, and then you put equal maximum and put minus the EBITDA or 0. Okay, let's put an underline here perhaps. Okay, and then oh shit. Okay, and then I'm just swearing on purpose because this guy told me not to swear in the videos. And then we put the minimum of the opening NOL balance or the maximum of the EBITDA or 0, which says we only use the NOL when it's positive, and we only use it when we have some balance. And then we put a closing balance plus this minus that. Okay, and then now we compute an adjusted tax basis, so we have a negative one. We have to add back the amount we stick into the NOL and take the one we take out. So we have all these periods of no taxable income. I guess that covered the whole thing. There might be an expiration. And then let's get our tax rate from just, our transferred variable, shift control P, shift control R, get our taxes paid from the adjusted NOL. Okay. And that's really all you need from the profit and loss. But of course, to get our balance sheet balance, we better put it in. So then we'll put our earnings after tax. Now you could make a deferred tax on the NOL, which would be more consistent with the accounting, but I'm focused here on the cash and the IRR, so I'm not worrying about it. If you were focused on the earnings, you would have to put a deferred tax in for that. Now, let's fix my error when I didn't take the synergies. Okay, and if I did that, now oops. Okay, and then I'm going to put my taxes in. You saw that there's a problem. Okay, and then now I subtract the capex and all that. I hope I've got everything, but I have to put a minus on the taxes, which are 0. Oh, that was, I think it's okay. That negative IRR was just because we used the bear case. Let's use the base case. And then now our IRR is fixed for taxes, and let's just walk through a couple of things here. Now, after I get all my cash flow from operations, I take away the interest, which is upstairs in this line. Maybe let's go crazy with lines so the accounts will like us. And then we see how much cash is left over. And I have a negative cash left over, and that means I can't afford to pay all the debt back. And I put a cash flow sweep and said, okay, we'll take this number, and if we finally repay it, which we'll finally repay it over here, okay, then in this, we have this much cash flow, but our debt outstanding, after we increased it actually for the negative amortization, it didn't really work very well. Then we're never going to pay off more than the opening balance. So this minimum adjusts for the opening balance. Okay, perhaps we should have maybe put a little less debt in here. Or, yeah, and so let's put 160,000 of debt. That would be billion or whatever it is. And it still didn't quite work. But so I'm sorry about that. But then we have to, we're kind of defaulting on the debt, or we'd have to get it from equity, but that doesn't matter. By the time we're finished, we have to repay more than this. So I'm going to put the 250,000 in here, and maybe if we would have got an 8% interest rate or something like that, we can evaluate what's the effect on our equity IRR, and now we can do it with different holding periods, and we can kind of see what's the right holding period. This didn't make much of a difference. Okay, but if I put a different in the acquisition assumptions, if I put a different exit multiple, which is dreaming, whatever, to say you have a much higher exit multiple than entry multiple, you're saying, well, I'm not going to go into theory right now. I love the theory, but what the hell, I want to finish this stupid video. Then if I put a shorter holding period, I get a higher number. Okay, but if I maybe would put the same with the bear case. It's so we can do all of this, and we can say, well, what if we have high synergies and all of that? And I think I'm going to stop the video now, and I might make an adjunct kind of video that goes through. And the only thing we haven't really done in this acquisition model is put in together all the balance sheet. By the way, I made a little holding period sensitivity with different exit multiples, and then you can kind of judge what's the optimal holding period in different situations. And you could have, put these little drop down boxes here as well. Okay, so that's a little bit on the acquisition model, and I'm going to stop the video because I'm sick of it, and it's been more than an hour.